Hi! In this video, we're going to be looking at how to create a Singleton class in C#. So let's get started. So firstly, we want to have a class. Right. This class we'll call calculator. Alright, so in this calculator, we'll have a method public int add. Let's say it takes in two in values and then adds them together and returns their solution. Alright, so we created a class calculator and then we added an add method inside this calculator. So let's say we have another class, public class, another class. Okay, and then this other class has the main method. So if we wanted to call this add method inside the calculator class, we would have to first create an instance of the calculator. Right, we have to create an instance or object of the calculator class, and this instance then gives us access to this method, right? So we can then say calculator.add, and then we pass in 1 and 1, right? So when you call this method, it's going to take in this 1 and 1 and then add them together and give us the answer. And then we want to store that answer in a variable called sum, right? And then let's print this. Alright, so when we print this, it should print out 2. Okay, here you go. As you can see, it prints out 2. Now, okay, so now that we have that, we want to make the calculator class a singleton, right? And one of the rules of a singleton is that you can't create an instance of a singleton class. Actually, it's the main idea that you cannot create a singleton, you cannot create an instance of a singleton class in another class, right? You can't have another class creating an object of this calculator class if the calculator class is a singleton. So therefore we want to prevent this behavior from happening. How do we do that? Well, we have to say private calculator, and that's it. So we have to create a private constructor of the calculator, and this effectively prevents the creation of the instance of the calculator in another class, right? So let's now try to run the code again. As you can see now, we get an error saying calculator is inaccessible due to protection level. That means now we can't exactly be creating calculator in another class or any other class, for example, right? So then we ask ourselves, okay, so if we can no longer create an instance of the calculator, how then can we still access this add method, right? So then the calculator says, no, it's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a single source of instance for all the classes that will be using me, right? So the calculator class will be creating a single instance for all the classes that will be calling the calculator class methods, right? So any class that uses this add method will go through this instance, this single instance, and it will not be able to create any other instances of the calculator class, because the calculator class cannot have its instances be created in any other classes either than itself, right? So it can only create instances of calculator inside the calculator only, right? So if you want to create an instance in another class, it's no longer allowed, right? So this is the instance that the calculator class will give us. So let's create it now. We're going to say public static calculator instance, right? And then we want to say get. We want to say get, and then we want to check if calculator, meaning this calculator instance, is null, right? So we're asking if the calculator instance has not been created, which means it's null, then we want to create one. Calculator equals to new calculator. Otherwise, we just return calculator. And that's it. That's really it, right? So what have we done here? So remember, at first we used the calculator instance that we created in this class, right, in order to access the add method. But then the calculator class became a singleton, right, which meant that you can no longer instantiate the calculator class in any other class, right? So you can no longer use an instance of the calculator class in another class. So we needed a way to access the calculator information, such as this add method, in other classes. So we said that we're going to create a single source of instance, a single source of instance, or if you like to call it a singleton. That will be the access point, right, to the methods of the calculator class, right? So now instead of saying calculator.add, we can then now say calculator.instance.add, and then we push in the 1 and the 1, and here we go. Now let's run the code. Okay, so there's an error. I have forgotten to add the semicolon. Okay, let's get back to the code. So I think that semicolon is here. You see here, I forgot to add a semicolon in the calculator instance here. Now let's go back and run the code again. Okay, then we get our answer as 2, right? So now, as you can see here, they're saying non-nullable field calculator must contain a non-nullable value when exiting a constructor. So here we just need to make sure we pass in a question mark here saying that this is nullable, right? That will effectively remove that warning. Okay, now let us run again. Alright, so now we get the 2 and we have removed the warning. Okay, so this is how you create a singleton. This is a singleton class.